Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jesus. Good morning, Holy Spirit. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. So, welcome, everyone. Today is November 8th. It's Monday morning. It's 9 a.m. on the dot, 9 a.m. sharp. So, I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. I missed you all this weekend. I wasn't on Saturday or Sunday. And I'm going to try to be better about that and not miss the weekend. I'm really going over that in my mind that I missed both Saturday and Sunday. But it's a new day. It's a new week. I'll try again to be consistent. And I was thinking about this morning. Those of you that were with me when I did the 30-day show up challenge earlier this year, and I had to show up consistently on social media for 30 days. I did not miss one day. I was faithful to it, right? Whether I showed up in the morning or nighttime, I never went to bed without appearing on social media, on Facebook, even if I didn't know what I was going to talk about, even if I didn't have anything to talk about. So if I could do the 30-day show up challenge and not miss a day, surely I should be on here consistently without missing a day, reading the Word of God with you all, right? And so I'm going to work on that to be better about that. All right. So today we are up to Psalm 36, right? We're reading the book of Psalms. We're at Psalms chapter 36. I'm going to read it out of the Amplified Classic this morning, and then I'm going to read a couple of verses out of the Message translation. Right? Can you guys see? I think it's pretty bright in here today. The sun is beaming through my window. It looks like it's gorgeous. It is 44 degrees and sunny here. All right, so let's get started. In the Amplified Classic this morning, it titles this psalm, "To the Chief Musician, a Psalm of David, the Servant of the Lord." And it reads, "Transgression like an oracle speaks to the wicked deep in his heart. There is no fear or dread of God before his eyes, for he flatters and deceives himself in his own eyes that his iniquity will not be found out and be hated. The words of his mouth are wrong and deceitful. He has ceased to be wise and to do good. He plans wrongdoing on his bed and sets himself in a way that is not good. He does not reject or despise evil. Your mercy and loving kindness, O Lord, extend to the skies, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your judgments are like the great deep. O Lord, you preserve, you preserve man and beast. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of men take refuge and put their trust under the shadow of your wings. They relish and feast on the abundance of your house, and you cause them to drink of the stream of your pleasures. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light. Oh, continue your loving kindness to those who know you, your righteousness, salvation, to the upright in heart. Let not thy foot of pride overtake me. Let not the foot of pride overtake me, and let not the hand of the wicked drive me away. There the workers of iniquity fall and lie prostrate. They are thrust down and shall not be able to rise. Now, I had to say, out of this psalm, I haven't posted the verse of the day, and good morning to whoever that is. It's not scrolling, so I didn't, or I wasn't looking up. I didn't see your name. But anyway, good morning. Okay, so my favorite verse, and I think I'm going to try to find this today to post this, is "For with you is the fountain of life," but it's the second half that I love. In your light do we see light. Because you have to ponder that, right? In your light do we see light. I love it. All right, so I'm going to flip over to the Message translation, and I'm going to start at verse 5, and I'm going to read verses 5 through 9, because I happen to really like just that section, the way the Message translation, states it, okay? God's love is meteoric, his loyalty astronomic, his purpose titanic, his verdicts oceanic. Yet in his largeness, nothing gets lost. Not a man, not a mouse slips through the cracks. How exquisite your love, O God. How eager we are to run under your wings, to eat our fill at the banquet you spread, as you fill our tankards with Eden spring water. You're a fountain of cascading light, and you open our eyes to light. So you open our eyes to light. That's the verse that I said I love. That's verse 9, right? In your light, we see light. So God, you illuminate things for us. But let's just, I'm going to flip back over to the Amplified Classic and let's see what we have here. Because that really was the one verse that just like really popped for me. So what do we have here? The wicked deep in his heart, there is no dread or fear of God before his eyes. So we've kind of heard that theme before, right? Like the wicked, they never think they're going to get caught. They don't even have any fear of God. And so they just are like reckless, right? They're just doing whatever they want. There's nothing, they don't feel like anybody can check them. They don't even see any error of their ways. So they're not going to turn from their wicked ways because they don't think they're doing anything wrong. All right. He flatters and deceives himself in his own eyes that his iniquity will not be found out and be hated, because they think, a lot of these people, they think they're so slick. Right? The ones that know that they're doing wrong, they think they're slick. So they think they're not going to get found out, you know? And so a lot of times we say this, like certain people think that they're above the law. They think that they can do whatever, however. Let me lift this up. This kind of looks like, I think that's better. What do you think? I think that's better. Okay. Yeah, like, you know, the people that think they're above the law, they think they can do whatever, however, and get away with it, right? Lie, cheat, steal, embezzle. All right. The words of his mouth are wrong and deceitful. He has ceased to be wise and to do good. Some people, we've read this before, they set out to do evil, right? That they don't go to bed, right? So here we see, we read this, I think we read this in the book of Proverbs too, about the people who just, they don't go to bed until they've done evil, right? These workers of iniquity. He plans wrongdoing on his bed. So before he even gets up out of the bed, he's already planning what kind of wickedness he's going to do today. He sets himself in a way that is not good. He does not reject nor despise evil. Again, they don't see anything wrong with what they're doing. Okay. Your mercy and loving kindness, O Lord, extend to the sky, and your faithfulness to the clouds. So true. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your judgments are like the great deep. O Lord, you preserve man and beast. The Lord looks after his children, right? And we've heard about the scriptures where he provides for the birds, right? He provides for all of these animals out here. Everybody, there's always a chain of like food, right? In the wilderness, you have a chain order in which the animals they eat, they're provided for. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of men take refuge and put their trust under the shadow of your wings. Now, I happen to like this in the Message translation, where it says, how eager we are to run under your wings. That was one of the reasons why that and you open our eyes to light were the two, I think, sentences in here that made me really want to read this out of the Message translation this morning. Because when I read this, how eager we are to run under your wings. I remember specifically last week, I was praying about that. Lord, just hide me under the shadow of your wings. Keep me from all of this nonsense that we see going on in the world right now. All of this foolishness. And it's not foolishness because it's wickedness, really. A lot of this is just evil. God, just protect me and hide me under your wings. Hide me under the shadow of your wings. Just, Lord, just be my covering. And I love that word covering, right? To be covered is a wonderful thing. Just think about like in the wintertime or what you're laying in your bed and it's cold and you pull up your covers, right? There's a warmth to that, right? It gives you a good feeling when you're snuggled up in that bed and you have your covers on you. It's the same thing in the spirit, to know that God is our covering. And then in your relationships in life, your personal relationships with people, it's nice to be covered, right? It's nice to have somebody, nice to have a friend, a confidant, somebody that you can go to and you can talk to. And you know that even if the relationship ends, that they're not going to expose you, that they're going to cover you. Or when you're out and about, right, and you might say something wrong. It's nice for a person to have your back and keep their mouth silent in public and then correct you in private, right? That's essential, especially in romantic relationships and marriages. You can't go out in public and expose your spouse, or if your spouse, says something or does something that you don't agree with. That's not the time to voice your disagreement, right? Or your disapproval. You handle that at home, right? So you need people to be your covering, people who will have your back publicly and then correct you privately. Now, there were times where, I'm going to say that there's got to be a limit to that, because depending upon what it is that you said or did, it might need to be corrected. Correcting it at home might be too late. So I'm not going to say that's 100% of the time, but in those cases where the correction can wait, there's not going to be any harm done, no lives lost, right? Or it might just be a difference of opinions. Neither person is right or wrong. It's just you differ in opinion. The correction takes place at home in private. Okay. So, how exquisite your love, O God, how eager we are to run under your wings, to eat our fill at the banquet you spread, as you fill our tankards with Eden spring water, your fountain of cascading light, and you open our eyes to light. So, that's one of the things that I pray. God, give me wisdom. God, open my eyes to see. Give me eyes to see, ears to hear what it is that you're saying and doing in this hour, right? So God, you open our eyes to light. And then I also think about that through reading the Word of God. When you read the Word of God and God starts to download and give you an understanding of what His Word is saying, your eyes become open. You become enlightened. Right? So there's many different ways that we can think about this, that you open our eyes to light. Once we walk in the light, once we see the light, we should never have a desire to go back into the darkness. Right? Once He sets us free, we should desire to remain free. We should never want to go back to bondage. Right? And when you know better, let's think about it like this. When you know better, you do better. Right? That's the whole point. Each day we should try to be a better version of ourselves than we were the day before. That's what I talk about. I was saying how I hate stagnancy. Is that a word? I hate being stagnant. And I hate complacency, where people feel like they've achieved everything that they need to achieve and they never push to go further. We should always desire to learn something new, right? We're never done learning. Learning to me is not something that ever comes to an end. There's something that you can learn something new you can learn every day. I learn things from my grandchildren. There's so much that we can learn from the children. I learn from my children. My children laugh because I call on them to do certain things for me, because it comes naturally, right? Just because of the time and the days and the technology in which we grew up in. Certain things that they grew up in that we didn't, those of us in my age group, we didn't grow up in it and older, right? And so there's a learning curve for some of us that are older. And so, we have to always continue to press to learn something new, to be open. I'll say this too, don't judge a book by its cover. Because someone may look a certain way, that doesn't, good morning, Greg. Just because someone looks a certain way, that does not mean that we can't learn something from them. And morning, good to see you. And when I say that, what I kind of think of, it kind of just took me back. I don't even know why my mind just went here as I was saying it, but it did. About not judging a book from, don't judge a book by its cover. And kind of there's an arrogance sometimes to people, right? And so I was just thinking about, in corporate America, how many times do people look down on the people who clean, the janitor, I'm going to say the housekeeping staff. I don't know what's politically correct these days, whether it's janitors. I think there's another word for it, right? But the housekeeping staff. How many people look down on the person that's cleaning the bathroom, or the person, they come around and they clean the kitchen. And so people, in the office are looking down on them. But they're people too. And that might just be a second job. I remember there was a woman who held a position in the bank. And I went into the grocery store at night, and there she was working in the grocery store, stocking the shelves. Now, she held a good position at the bank, and I'm sure she was making good money, but we don't know why she had a second job at night. Maybe she, was putting her kids through college. Maybe she wants to retire early, so she doubled up. Like, I'm just going to use my mother. I don't think my mother would mind me saying this. My mother always kept 2 jobs. From the time I'm the youngest of 3 children. By the time I got to an age where I was in junior high school and I could take care of myself, and she was always local, my mother always kept 2 jobs. It wasn't that we were poor. We were never poor. My mother was excellent, and she got it from her mother. They were excellent with managing money. And my mother had a goal for herself on what she wanted to achieve financially. And so you can, instead of it taking you, let's say 30 years to achieve your dream by working that one job, you can cut your time down if you pick up an evening job. She only had 1 child left in the house. My older 2 sisters were gone. I was not dependent upon her, and she did not want to come home and just sit and watch TV every night. She felt that there was something more that she could do with her time. There was a better use for her time than to come and sit in the house and watch TV. Right? And so her mindset was, you know what? I can go get an evening job. It'll entertain me. Plus, it's going to give me money to fund my retirement. I can retire at an earlier age and have more money in the bank. So I can gain financial security than whatever the job was. She was learning a new skill while she was doing it, right? Meeting new people, exposing herself to new things, and making money, and using her time wisely. But, sometimes we look down on people depending upon what kind of job they have. We're status conscious, a lot of people. But you don't know why a person is doing that. You don't even know what they know. Right? Like, remember, what was it during the recession when everybody was getting laid off? And I remember reading articles about all of the lawyers that were out of work. Now, normally we hold lawyers in high regard. Right? But something happened. I just remember this because at that time, I was very sorry I didn't go to law school. At a certain age, I realized that I felt like my calling was, I was called to be a lawyer, and I missed the boat. And so I was very caught up in reading about lawyers, and I was actually contemplating going to law school. And I just remember reading the article saying that one particular field that was having a problem getting re-employed were lawyers. And so now you had all of these people who were used to making a whole lot of money, had a whole lot of status, unemployed. And now they had to take jobs in another field just to keep food on the table, right? Or for whatever reason they were doing it. But now if you met them on this, let's say, side job or evening job, and they didn't introduce themselves and say they were a lawyer, let's say they were cleaning the bathrooms at this office, right? Just for a short period of time. And they never said that they were a lawyer. Somebody could have looked down upon them, not knowing that these were highly educated people. And maybe they didn't even need the money. Maybe they had the savings. They just chose not to dip into their savings, which is wise, right? And so we can't judge a book by its cover. And what happened? Remember the actor, what was it, Elvin from The Cosby Show? When that whole thing blew up because he was working in a store and people saw him. And what happened? It backfired, right? People, if I remember what happened correctly, people saw him in the store. Somebody must have said something negative on social media about him, talking about him working in the store. And then what happened, though? Out of them trying to shame him and humiliate him and being mean and nasty, what happened? It opened the door for him to get employed. And I believe he ended up getting a lot of acting jobs, right? I hope I have the story correct. Don't quote me. But that's what I have in my mind, that he ended up getting, I thought I read he ended up getting all of these offers for acting gigs because somebody took to social media and tried to, say something bad about him. He was trying to provide for his family, which he should, right? He was doing whatever he needed to do to keep food on the table. And so we have a tendency sometimes to look down on people, and we shouldn't. Because they're but for the grace of God. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, right? We don't know. the pandemic hit, jobs got shut down, people were put in bad positions. So, you know, we have to be thankful for what we have. All right. Keep on loving your friends and do your work in welcoming hearts. Don't, okay, I'm sorry. That's the message. I don't want that message. I want the Amplified Classic. All right. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of men take refuge and put their trust under the shadow of your wings. Absolutely. They relish and feast on the abundance of your house, and you cause them to drink of the stream of your pleasures. I love this. They relish and feast on the abundance of your house. Let me see what the message said about that again. Right. To eat our fill at the banquet you spread. Absolutely. God owns it all, right? And then also, you know, when I just looked at this word abundance again, you know, it just came to me about sowing your tithes, about sowing and reaping. Those who sow sparingly reap sparingly. Those who, you know, you sow bountifully, you reap bountifully. There are certain laws and principles, but it's wonderful to be a child of the King and know that he owns it all, and to know that he has your back and he provides for his children. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light. Oh, continue your loving kindness to those who know you, your righteousness to the upright in heart. Let not the foot of pride overtake me, and let not the hand of the wicked drive me away. There the workers of iniquity fall and lie prostrate, and they are thrust down and shall not be able to rise. So we know that God always swoops in the end, right? Isn't it amazing how, do you ever realize, like, a lot of times you don't want to do something, you don't want to go somewhere, and you dread it, and then you have the best time, right? In the end, it all works together. And then have you ever left and said to yourself, I'm so glad that I went. I wasn't going to go, but I'm so glad I went. I think about that like with God. In the end, you know, he allows us to go through trials, tribulations, journeys, because they're part of our testimony, it's part of building our faith, it's part of building our character. But in the end, we end up better off for it, right? But when you're going through it, it doesn't feel good. But when you're done, you're like, you know, I'd do it again. I'd go through that again if I had to get where I am now, to land where I landed, to know what I know now. I would walk through it again. So we have to have an open mind. You know, like God takes you on a journey, and God has a sense of humor. And the beautiful thing is that he knows in the end, he already knows the end from the beginning. And so, you know, he's there to catch us when we fall. Just like you watch your children and when they're learning to walk and they fall, and you just sit and you keep your eye on them and you watch them get up and try it again. He lets us, you know, he lets us go through our ups and downs, but in the end, he's right there. Yep. Oh, continue your loving kindness to those who know you, your righteousness to the upright in heart. So that's what I have to say today about Psalms chapter 36. I just happen to love this. In your light do we see light. And we should just continue to seek the knowledge and the wisdom of God, because I think about the light also being the knowledge and the wisdom of God. In your wisdom, God, in your greatness, in the light, the breadth of you, who you are, we're able to see light. If we seek your face, if we read your word, you will enlighten us and open our eyes. All right. So love it, love it, love it. Love verse 9. In your light do we see light. All right. So now let me tell you what I named today. I named today dependable. And I named today dependable because I was just listening to, as you know, I listened to 2 ministries before I even come on. I start at 5 o'clock, and then when the second one ends, it ends. And then I prepare myself to come on here. But when they were talking this morning, the 6 o'clock ministry I listened to, God gave her instructions to go live 7 days a week, all through, so far, you know, all through, I think she might have started in January, all through 2021. She's had to show up at 6 a.m. regardless, and she travels. So regardless of where she is, she's live at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every morning. And so this morning she was saying she got home at like 3 or 3:30. She didn't get to bed until like 3:30 this morning, and then she had to be up 6 o'clock and lead this ministry, right? And so she's delivering the word of the Lord. She's speaking, so she's got to be on her game. It's not like she's sitting quietly. And so she was saying, I could have said, I'm tired, I don't feel like doing this morning. She said, but this is the instruction of the Lord. This is the assignment that God gave me. He didn't give me this assignment for 5 days a week. He gave me the assignment for 7 days a week. And so I have to be obedient to the word of God. And it's about showing that you can be dependable. Can people depend on you? Can people depend on you to show up when you're supposed to show up? Are you there when you're supposed to be there? And so then I started to feel convicted because I wasn't on this weekend. I meant to be on this weekend, but I didn't make it. You know, I started running around. I'm trying to do some things in my house. I'm trying to run errands and trying to just, there's a certain structure and order in my house. Like, you know, I like my flowers. I want my flowers here in my bedroom and in my kitchen. And I just have all these different things. I went to the nursery. I planted my winter flowers outside. I did all of these things. And then before I knew it, the day got away from me because I said I'm going to come on in the afternoon or evening, and things got away from me, and then it just didn't work out. But I felt convicted this morning when she was talking about that and talking about being dependable. Can God depend on you to show up? Can God depend on you to fulfill the assignment and the instructions, follow the instructions that he gave you? And so because I did not show up this weekend, I said, you know what? I have to learn. I have to now name today dependable. That's the word of the day, dependable, because I myself have to be dependable, you know? And then someone was talking last week, I think maybe it was like Friday, about the power of one and the audience of one. I remember my daughter was a dancer growing up, and she used to minister in a lot of the plays at this. There's a big church here about 2 or 3 miles from my house, and their sanctuary is literally almost the size of, it's probably bigger than some Broadway theaters. And so they would put on productions every year for, like, let's say Easter, Christmas, things like that. And my daughter is a dancer, and so she used to dance in these productions as ministry, right? And I remember if I'm not mistaken, I believe that they had a production called The Audience of One, or maybe she was on a dance recital called The Audience of One. Maybe that's what it was. But, you know, it goes to the idea that you have to show up and give your best, whether you're talking to one person, 2 people, 100 people, 400 people, or nobody. Because if nobody shows up on here, God is still watching, right? He's still the audience of one. And so I was so convicted this morning. I was like, you know what? You have to do better. Like, you have to show up. You have to show that you can be counted on and you're dependable. If people come on like Monday through Friday, right now I'm coming on at 9 o'clock. I'm struggling with that because there's somebody else that comes on at 9 who I really think I need to listen to what she's teaching, because it's going to push me further and help me gain and keep the momentum that I want. So I'm thinking I might have to come on somewhere between 8 and 9. But anyway, it's just about being dependable. If I say I'm going to be on here at 9 o'clock, or people get used to me being on here at 9 o'clock Monday through Friday, then when people come on at 9 o'clock and look for me, I need to be there. And that's what I was saying at the beginning when I did the 30-day show up challenge earlier this year. I think that was the training, because I was faithful to that. And that was a challenge issued by a pastor friend of mine, the woman I call my destiny helper. That was just a challenge she threw out there. That wasn't even something that I felt like that was an assignment God gave me, but I believe it was training ground. And I was saying at the beginning of this live, Greg, that I showed up for 30 days. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about because we didn't have a topic. It was just a training in consistency and being dedicated and increasing your level of commitment. And so I didn't miss a day. There were days that I came on Facebook and I just clicked live. I'd have to go back now and even see what I was talking about, because I don't even know what I was talking about. I just showed up. We had to show up. She issued the challenge. And that day, as soon as I heard her issue the challenge that night, maybe an hour or two later, I was doing my first live. And I didn't miss a day. And so if I can miss a day for a challenge like that, I should be able to be on here, consistently reading the word of God. And so I was very convicted this morning. And so I named today, I said all of that to say that I named today Dependable, and that Allison has to be as committed to this and not allow the day to end without me coming on here, if possible, because something might happen and it might just not be possible for me to get on here. But the days where it is possible for me to show up, I need to show up, So that was the lesson. I think that was really just a training ground in getting me prepared to show up every day on social media. And now I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, you need to expand it. You need to go on Instagram, because you don't know who on Instagram might benefit from something that I say, right? What about my Maintaining My Crown audience? A lot, like I said, not a lot, a couple of my friends on my Facebook page now came over from my hair page. And so now it's having being dependable and being consistent, and then expanding it, because you never know who, God has a message for. I don't know what I'm going to say when I come on here, honestly. I don't. I write down a couple of verses. I said this, but it go like this morning. I don't even know how I got to some of the topics that I discussed, but you don't know who needs to hear it on what day. So I need to show up. All right. So everyone, have a wonderful day. The sun is shining. It is bright here. So I see that my spirits are always high when the sun is beaming through my window. This is how I know I'm called to move down south to the warm weather, to the sunshine. All right. But everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day. Greg, have an awesome day. Kimberly, Wendy, Gigi, Eric, Roger. I haven't done this in a few days. Tony, now Teresa. I feel like I'm missing people already. But anyway, I don't mean to miss anybody. Charge it. What do they say? Charge it to my head and not my heart. All right. So that you all have a wonderful day. I will see you back here tomorrow morning. We'll be reading Psalms chapter 37. All right. Bye.